Good afternoon and welcome to another Money Making Mom Scope. This afternoon we're going to be talking about blogging. For those of you who are bloggers or writers or people who are thinking of blogging, we're going to talk about how to not run out of blog post ideas. And this comes from a question that a reader asked me, and she asked, how on earth do you come up with your post ideas? So welcome. For those of you who are new, my name is Crystal Payne and I am the founder of MoneySavingMom.com, and I have been blogging for 11 years, and I have blogged almost every single day for those 11 years. And so people always ask me, how on earth have you come up with something to write about every single day, except for Sundays, for 11 years? And so I'm doing a series this week on that topic and answering that question and just sharing some of my tips and some of my tricks and things that really help me and things that keep me inspired. So if you missed yesterday's scope, you can go to catch.me/MoneySavingMom, and the scope from yesterday is there. So we are going to jump right into today's scope, and I want to talk about capturing those ideas, because it's really important that not only we come up with the ideas, but I think one of the key things is that anytime we have an idea, that we have a way to capture it. Because so much of the time we can think of an idea, and then if we don't capture it, we forget about it. And so I'm going to share some different suggestions that have helped me to be able to capture those ideas. Yay, you caught me live. Okay. So, number one is just having a pen and paper handy. If you will notice, if you're on my scopes, you'll see I pretty much always have some kind of notebook. I love, this one is from TJ Maxx. I love their notebooks. Yay, you got on the chat, Lisa. So glad to have you here. So I pretty much always have one of these notebooks, a cute notebook that I write my daily list in, that I plan out my scopes, that I write post ideas. I go through these notebooks pretty quickly, but they're like $1, $1.50 each. And so I'm like, you know what? This is my brain. This is where I dump my brain. And so I am happy to pay $1.50 to go through a notebook every 3 weeks. So yay, you got on. So many people are getting on. So I always have this handy. Like when I am headed out the door, I bring my notebook, I stick it in my purse. I always have my notebook next to me when I am working on something. Wherever I am, you're gonna see a notebook is my notebook that I'm working through right then is pretty close to me. And the reason is because when those ideas come in my head, I want to be able to capture them. So always have a notebook handy. Secondly, I really encourage you to, if you are somewhere where you don't have your notebook, you can email yourself. And this works actually even better, because you can email yourself and then you can just transfer those notes straight to a blog post outline. So I will just transfer them straight into my blog editor. So if I am driving, or if I am out and about and I come up with this great idea, I'm like, I've got to write a post on that. Then I will, if I'm driving, I will literally voice email myself. So you can just open up an email and you can voice email yourself. I know some people that they'll text themselves, or they have other different ways they can do that. But capture it immediately. Don't think, oh, I'm going to remember that. Okay, well, don't be crazy and be safe when you drive. But have some way so that you're just, even if it's just like 3 words, sometimes that's all I need to remember the idea that I had. So give yourself whatever it is to remember what that idea was, whether it's to voice message yourself or to email yourself. I also sometimes I will take a picture of something that I want to I know that if I take a picture of that, that's going to remind me that I was going to write a post on that. So I'll take a picture and I'll email myself. My email inbox is kind of like my to-do list, and so that works out well for me. Maybe I am on the internet and I find a link. The other night, my husband was on Facebook and he found this link to this post about Aldi and how they're expanding their organic and whole foods line. And I said, oh, I need to post about that. And so I said, email me that link. So I'll email myself links, which might sound silly, but it's like, I won't remember. I cannot rely upon my memory. And so do yourself a favor, email yourself or put it straight into a blog post draft so that you don't forget. Google Calendar is another way that I capture those thoughts immediately. I love Google Calendar, as you all know if you've been on my scopes before, and I love to use it to write ideas for post. So how I use my Google Calendar, I will show you. I've showed it before, but I'm going to show it again how I use it. Yes, thanks to Jessie Austin, that is absolutely right. So if you can see, I have all day tasks. And I do a lot of all day tasks if it's a task that it needs to be done that day, but it doesn't necessarily have a time frame. So I'll put tasks that, let's say it's an appointment or it's a meeting or somewhere that I'm going that has a specific time. That's going to be on my calendar during the time blocks. Okay, if you can see, like in the time blocks. But for an all day task, that's just something I need to do that day. Now, if you will look, this color right here, that's my personal calendar. The other colors are other people's calendars. It's either Jessie's, my husband's calendar, or other people on my team that I have their calendar because we work together so often I need to know what they're doing. So you will see today, looky there. There is no of this color. That means I did pretty much all of my tasks for today. So I will put on an all-day task that will be a blog post idea or a scope idea. So let's say that someone makes a comment or asks a question on scope that I'm like, oh, that would be a really good blog post or that would be a really good scope. I will just go put it as an all-day task, and that's just so that I remember and I don't forget, because you got to put it somewhere. Get it out of your brain and put it somewhere. So a lot of times I'll map these out for a week or two in advance. I will put all-day task for the scopes and the posts that I'm planning to do for the next week or two. Now, here's the thing. I never follow it perfectly, ever, because I'm such a blog and scope by the seat of my pants kind of person. And so I never follow it perfectly. But I love to know that I have a week or two or three of really good, solid ideas that are there. So if I don't get some inspiration on the fly, I have a good solid idea there to go with. So putting it as all-day task, that really helps me. The other thing that I love is when you put it as an all-day task, I'll show you. There's this beautiful part where you can put notes. And so oftentimes I will put notes down here. So I do this for when people write in and they ask me a question that I think, oh, that'd make a really good blog post or scope. I will just title it, scope about how I find time to read or something. And then in the section where you can put the notes, I will actually copy and paste their question in. That way I don't forget it. Or maybe there's a link that I want to do a blog post on, or a couple of links. I'll put the title and then I'll put the link there in the notes so that I don't lose it, because I will forget stuff otherwise. So that is one way that I use Google Calendar that really helps me to just capture those ideas. I always have more ideas than time, but that way I'm never worried about coming up with inspiration, because there's so much in my Google Calendar, but I love that I can just move it around. So if I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna blog or scope about that, and then I'm gonna move that to another day. And I do that all the time, but it's so easy to drag and drop with Google Calendar. I also think that you can use your notebook to just put ongoing ideas. So you can just scribble it down. I'll usually scribble it down. I write a to-do list for every day. So this is like my to-do list. This is actually just for tonight because I rewrote my to-do list for the afternoon. And if I come up with an idea, like I'm like, oh, I should do that, I'll just write it down in there. And then when I'm transferring my to-do list to the next day, when I'm looking over my to-do list to say, oh, I didn't finish those few things, and I'm writing out the to-do list for the next day, then I'll be reminded of those ideas and make sure that they go somewhere, either into a blog post draft or on Google Calendar. This might seem kind of complicated because they're in different places, but for me, I have a few places that they can be, and as long as they're in one of those places, I'm not going to forget. So find what those places are for you and make sure that you put your ideas there instead of just scattered on Post-it notes all over the house or swirling around in your brain. Find places and capture them immediately and put them there. I also love to use post draft to put ideas. So this is really the best thing if I'm on my computer and I can open up my WordPress and I can be in a blog draft and I can put the ideas in there. That's really the best place to put them. And a lot of times I'll just type out whatever comes to my mind real quickly. I'll think, okay, I want to write a post on how to read more. And so that post just went up on that. That's why I'm using that as an example. And so I'll just type in really quickly, I want to make sure and recommend this book, and I want to make sure and talk about this, and here's one point that I want to mention, and here's one link I want to use, and I'll just kind of brain dump it all there. So it's all there. And then I can just save it as a draft, and then it's there for later when I want to go back and rewrite that post. So just the biggest point is to capture your ideas immediately. Don't let them swim around in your brain. Don't tell yourself that you're going to remember, because so much of the time you don't. Evernote is another great way to save ideas, and if I used apps and if I used Evernote, I would totally use Evernote, but I don't use apps much at all. I use the Starbucks app. I definitely do that because I earn my Starbucks gift cards with Swagbucks, and so I put them in the Starbucks app and earn my little gold card points because I'm real big on that. And I use a couple of like Waze and a couple of other apps, but I just can't get into Evernote. I cannot get into Evernote. It's just not, I can never, Stacy, you and me, we are like separated at birth. Can never remember to use apps. I'll download it and then I'll be like, you know, I forget that, and then I delete it. The other thing is anyone else, like I'm OCD about apps. I have to have the same number of apps and like they have to all match. You cannot like have two in a row. Like they have to be all the way across, like straight rows. And so I will delete apps just so that it's all the same. Jessie thinks that that's ridiculous, but you put apps in folders and they can't find them. Yeah, I'm like, I can't put an app in a folder. If it's in a folder, it's like out of sight, out of mind. You do that with apps too? Oh, good. I'm glad I'm not the only one. It's terrible when I get somebody else's phone. If I'm using somebody else's phone, it is so hard for me not to just like want to go and delete apps or move things around, because I'm like, how do you function if your apps aren't like in straight rows and they're like off balance? Like that's just like a travesty. Like, don't do that. But it cracks me up so much because like how people are so different, and everybody, you know how some people can function in chaos and that helps them be creative. And I just cannot deal. So yeah, symmetry. Like it has to be symmetrical. Otherwise it, doesn't work. So I just don't do those folders. So yeah, you have all your photo apps together. Sounds like, yeah, some of you are organized. We joke that my husband has to have folders for his folders, and then he has to label all his folders so that he can figure out what is in his folders. And I'm like, just don't even go there. It's so much easier. So anyway, that's what I wanted to share with you today. And tomorrow, I think I'll have time tomorrow that we will continue on, because there's so much more that I want to share. If you have not done so already, be sure to go to MoneyMakingMomBook.com and sign up for my free 5-day course on how I make a full-time income from home. And you can also, if you're interested in saying like, how do you make money blogging? How do you get started blogging? If you go to MoneySavingMom.com/scope, you can also read my series that I've done on how to make money blogging. And I walk you through step-by-step how to set up your blog, how to get started, how to set your blog up for success. So that's at MoneySavingMom.com/scope. You buy the whole desk calendar, put it on the wall, and write everything on there. Errands, appointments. Okay, so here's the deal. I cannot have calendars that I have to handwrite stuff in because I'm always moving things around. I've gotten so spoiled with Google Calendar with the drag and drop feature that it's like, if I can't handwrite in calendars anymore, because I also kind of OCD about like erasing and then being able to see that you erased something off of there. Yeah, I know, I have issues. But anyway, to each his own. Find what works for you and do what works for you. Did you beat her? Did you beat Stacy? So anyway, thanks so much for joining me this afternoon, and I hope you have a wonderful evening, and I will see you sometime tomorrow morning, somewhere around 7:30, 8 o'clock, making no promises. We'll see what tomorrow holds. Somewhere around 7:30, 8 o'clock Central Time for our morning motivation show. Have a great afternoon.